We're back, baby. It's the charity stripe. Pitch your free throws because they're free. Joshua Fisher, Alexander Toss Me the Rock, Disciples DJ, Nikki Snacks, Kreider, the Daily Stripe. Gentlemen, obviously playoffs are underway in football, basketball. Under siege. Texas Longhorns win it, obviously, again last night against Oklahoma State in the Moody Center. What's new? But we came in this morning and Toss, you had a bone to pick with people's mock drafts lately.
Not a bone to pick. I just think it's interesting that the last 3 months, we were seeing the quarterbacks play out in mock drafts. Young first, Stroud second, Levis third, and then Richardson fourth. And now it's utter chaos. We're seeing a lot of Levises at 1. I've seen some Strouds at 1, and Young seems to be slipping, and a lot of it, of course, nothing new.
One as the first quarterback taken.
Yeah.
If, the Bears don't.
Yeah, all being taken in the first round, all being taken in the top 10, but Young slipping behind Levis, Stroud, whichever team, whichever person who's making their mock draft is assigning one of those QBs to one of those teams, and just things are playing out differently. And my bone to pick is why now? It's not like we didn't know that Bryce Young was small.
There's been no evidence since the end of the season that has proven that those guys deserve to jump Bryce Young, right?
Well, I think the game against Georgia for Stroud was very enlightening for a lot of people.
Yeah,
obviously.
But if you're talking about
SEC
Stroud versus Young, I don't think it really changed people's minds because Bryce Young had a fantastic bowl game as well.
He did. I think people...
The size thing is scaring people, I feel like.
Yeah, they're getting googly eyes over Will Levis' size. I mean, to me, quite frankly, if you can't produce at the highest level in college football, I'm not going to take you over a guy that can. I don't understand why people would take Levis, who was up and down at Kentucky. I don't understand why people are getting googly eyes in the mid to back end of the first round over Anthony Richardson, who couldn't produce at Florida, really. He had a couple of decent games and spectacular throws, but if you go across the landscape of college football, there are guys that do that, top to bottom every week. And then you have a guy like C.J. Stroud, who by and large has dominated in almost every single game he's played at Ohio State, sans the Michigan games.
Yeah, I don't know if that necessarily always translates, though. I mean, we've seen guys before that dominate in college that don't really even sniff the league. They are backups their entire career.
Mm-hmm.
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
Josh Allen came from Wyoming. It's
not Colt,
it's not like they were putting up crazy numbers there. Yeah, Colt McCoy was dominant at Texas. And
excellent backup in the NFL, but never been a great starter, never a top 15 QB in the league.
I think it really depends on the system that you get drafted in.
It always does.
Right? What's the offense? Who are the weapons? Who's developing you?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many different things. And I think with a guy like Richardson, I think there might be a lot of untapped potential maybe there.
I mean,
well, what's to say that Richardson, the comp for the QB, not to say these guys trait for trait are the exact same, but season to season, Richardson had some incredible flashes, truly unique flashes that no other QB in college football had, especially from a running standpoint. Explosiveness, breakout plays, pretty similar to Justin Fields' year this season in the NFL. I mean, he didn't have the weapons and support around him, but he had some excellent plays that he figured things out with his legs and made a heroic play.
Yeah, but we didn't even see that in college out of Fields, really. We saw his arm.
Having that run game.
I'm just saying, I'm comparing the two seasons. What's to say that Richardson can't develop and, with his passing like Josh Allen did?
It just depends it depends. If you're a team that can afford to wait on him, fine. A team like the Texans probably can, because they're in full rebuild.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
they're not picking in that
second.
Yeah, they're picking. They could get him in the back end of the first round if they move back. They have 2 picks. They could continue to move back from the Cleveland pick.
It's getting more and more valuable to have wheels as a quarterback, and it shifted that way in the last 10, 15 years. And I think that having not as great of accuracy isn't as big of an issue because I think you can work on that. You've seen Jalen Hurts take the next step and work on his accuracy, but you can't coach speed. We say this all the time, and being able to add that extra dimension in the run game makes your offense that much more versatile.
But I think if you look at the NFL, it's a great segue to these guys, these 4 NFL QBs that are in the championship games here. They all are excellent decision makers.
They're athletic, too. I mean, I don't...
Yeah, but that's not my point. My point is that they're decision makers, that Joe Burrow, if you want to compare him, who just knocked Josh Allen out of the playoffs.
Very decisive.
The guy had, how big were his hands? What was the measurable on his hands when he was in the draft? And everyone was like, he's got smaller than 9-inch hands or whatever. And that's an issue. Can he even grip the NFL football? It's not an issue. And he makes decisions. He doesn't turn over the ball. And when push comes to shove in the playoffs, you don't have possessions to throw away.
If you put the guy in the right,
and I know Bryce Young takes care of the ball. That's one thing.
and if you put a guy in the right system, like if Bryce Young goes, let's say he doesn't go to the Texans, but let's say he goes to a team like the Colts, who have proven clearly in the past they can develop a quarterback, or he goes to a team like the Seahawks, who have a good young offensive line starting to be put in place. They have good receivers. They have a good head coach who's got a championship caliber. Like
that team might be in the best position in the NFL for the teams that, didn't necessarily make it this far.
I mean, them and the Eagles, they're both picking in the top 10, and they're both playoff teams.
Yeah.
Right.
That rarely happens. The Eagles are a benefactor of a peculiar Saints trade in last year's draft. The Seahawks are a benefactor of a trade that we all thought they might have gotten ripped off on. And then you could go to the Texans, who are a few years behind those teams, yet they seem to be the benefits of the Deshaun Watson trade. Like, you can't, to me, the Bears have no other option than to trade that pick. If you're picking at 1, you stink. Like, if quite frankly,
Yeah,
if the Jags,
whoever they take isn't going to turn their franchise around
No.
this next season.
no way. If the Jaguars, if they didn't get absolutely lucky that the Jets won a game or two, and and Trevor Lawrence fell into their lap, they'd still be terrible. They'd be horrible still if they had the number 2 pick in 2 years ago, because they messed up again by taking Trayvon Walker.
I would just pose, though, if you are if you're the Bears, and you think that Will Anderson can be Micah Parsons or Nick Bosa, I think that's a team-changing pick.
It is a team-changing pick, but when Micah Parsons was picked to the Dallas Cowboys, they had other guys in place that were playmakers in the defense already. Lawrence, Diggs.
I mean,
guys
those
over there that
Nick Bosa, T.J. Watt, Micah Parsons, those guys are one-man defenses to a certain extent. You have to build pieces around them, but
for sure,
they're the cornerstone.
Absolutely,
you're not waiting to take one of those guys.
And I think if you're the Bears, you could still move back to 4 and get one of those guys and get Jalen Carter, get Will Anderson Jr. I don't think one of them is a step above the other that you need to take them at 1 and not run back getting for another first rounder from the Colts next year or a couple other picks.
It's a risk to move back to 4 for Anderson, I think. I think
the Cardinals. To me, the way I
someone might move up for that guy.
The way I see things shaking out probably will be the Colts going to 1. Let's say they take Stroud. The Texans have googly eyes. They're not taking Bryce Young. They're going to take Will Levis. Apparently, I mean they probably should take Jalen Carter or Will Anderson Jr., but they won't. They take Will Levis, and then you're the Cardinals, and you're pretty much in the same position as the Bears. Quite frankly, you might be in a worse position than the Bears because your quarterback just tore his ACL.
Right.
So now and you've paid him. So now you're in a lot of trouble. You're the Cardinals. You may have no choice but to move back as well. So you could hit up the Seahawks, like we were discussing with Joe DeLeon, who can move up from 5 to 3. You could hit up the Raiders, the Panthers, the Falcons, and then you're the Bears, who are back at the front of the line, and then you have your choice again. Like, that would be an ideal situation, and you've picked the picks.
All right, I want to pivot for the two of y'all to talk some baseball.
Yeah.
Some breaking news in baseball yesterday. Scott Rolen, he's nominated. He's a Hall of Famer now.
Mm-hmm.
Couple of guys that did not make the cut. Billy Wagner, legendary reliever, and Todd Helton.
It's a joke.
Amongst other guys.
Todd Helton missed it by 11 votes, by the way.
Unquestionably the Rockies' best player of all time.
Yeah.
I would say.
I mean, him or Larry Walker.
Larry Walker, right? That's the only other guy. What do we think?
Todd's going to get another chance. Hopefully he gets in next season.
Yeah.
Right? I think the whole Colorado numbers inflated thing, there's not enough merit there because he hit really well on the road as well. Like, he's a 285 career hitter on the road. Like,
sure.
That's a great hitter.
So like 316 career average, right?
And he played there almost his entire career, right? I don't think he played for another team.
No, he didn't play for another. I mean, he's the greatest Rocky of all time.
Exactly. So there's gonna have some merit there to being a lifer and a homer. I really think that if you're a writer in Major League Baseball that gets to vote on the Hall of Fame and you don't cast a vote that season, or if you submit a blank ballot, which happens a lot, you should get your voting rights taken away. There should definitely be someone that goes to the Hall of Fame each season. Like, there's 50 plus guys on the ballot, right? They need to be able to get someone in every single season because it's good for the progression of baseball to have those those aspirations to get to the Hall of Fame, and the criteria is just so benign all the time. It's like, oh, like this guy played at this, specific city and didn't play enough, in a tougher
Makes no sense.
pitcher's ballpark, and this era he wasn't great in that era. It's ridiculous.
If you're going to give a demerit to the guys like Gary Sheffield, right, who clearly is in trouble making the Hall of Fame. If you're going to give a
He's
demerit,
not gonna make it.
Yeah, if you're going to give a demerit to a guy who seemingly, we all presume to have taken steroids, and you're going to give a demerit to that guy in that era, why not bump up the guy like Todd Helton, who in that era didn't?
Right.
I guess, right? If he didn't take steroids, why doesn't he get a raise? Pick a side.
That's a good point.
And then you're also in a situation where, again, he's above. It's not like he hit 290 and was a Colorado Rock. He hit above 310.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, regardless,
I mean,
still got to hit the ball.
He doesn't have the 3K, the 400, like a first baseman you want to see.
And then with Billy Wagner,
Also
one of the best lefty closers of all time, right? Maybe the best lefty closer of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And he's done because that's his last opportunity to be a Hall of Famer.
If you can't make the Hall of Fame as a reliever, then what's the point of putting relievers in realistic? I mean, Hoffman, Rivera, those guys are the two best. I mean, it took Hoffman an absurd amount of time to get in. You should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. Billy Wagner, the fact that we're on his last ballot is ridiculous.
In the 2000s, he was talked about in the same type of regard. Obviously, Mariano was always the top, right?
He's mentioned
when you're talking about best closers in the league for a 8 to 10 year stretch, Billy Wagner was always in the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also think a lot of it has to play with, Mariano Rivera, Derek Jeter, of course, they're Hall of Famers. There's no question. But playing in New York also has that allure as well.
100%. It's a blessing.
Trevor Hoffman, San Diego.
Yeah, but Billy Wagner played in New York.
Yeah, but I mean, I think a lot of
his best years are Houston.
Sure. Yeah, but say Houston's his best years.
It's also a storied franchise, though. They've got guys. I mean, and then you go to Beltran, who clearly
as a player should be in there, but they're going to give him no credit because of the whole cheating scandal that happened in Houston
at the end of his career. At the very end of his career, It's crazy.
How about
Carlos
the fact
Beltran,
that
8 guys. 300 home runs, 300 steals, and he's above 400 home runs. Gold Glove winner, all-star. This guy
played for multiple teams too. Had to do it in different environments.
Oh my God, he was good everywhere he went.
Right.
Yep.
Everywhere he went, Carlos Beltran was good. I mean, the Hall of Fame proved to be a joke yesterday. No, Scott Rolen deserved. I think
it's always a joke.
Scott Rolen deserved to make it.
Well, that's the only thing. I will say that having Scott Rolen in there, it's great. I feel bad that it's getting overshined by just the debauchery of all of it. Because he definitely deserves the praise.
Yeah.
But I think that people aren't giving it to him right now because they're upset. And that's so it goes. It just continues every single season. We're upset with this committee literally every single season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's unfortunate.
When's it going to stop?
When will it end? Well, it won't end for us because we'll be back. We'll be back tomorrow.
Get into some playoff picks too.
Yeah, we'll get some playoff picks from our guest Scott Hansen, who's coming on of NFL Red Zone. Daily Stripe, Fisher, Tosopoulos, Snacks, Kreider. We'll see you guys tomorrow.